Welcome to Crosstalk Solutions. My name's Chris, and today I wanted to talk about phone number porting, or the process of moving your phone numbers from one carrier to another. So this can be kind of an arduous process. It's not a fun thing to go through, and it's kind of scary. I mean, it is possible, and I've heard cases of people that have lost their phone numbers in the phone number porting process. So I wanted to do a quick overview of how the phone number porting process works, and then some of the common issues that cause phone number ports to be rejected and that cause problems during the porting process. Okay, so let's take a quick look at this. So here we have on my desktop a diagram of the phone number porting process. So this is you, the customer, right here. And as the customer, let's say you have a brand new carrier. Say you're transitioning from AT&T over to a new SIP provider. And AT&T would be the losing carrier in this case. The new carrier would be your new SIP provider, for instance, if you just purchased a voice over IP phone system. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to submit paperwork to the new carrier. And the paperwork consists of two things. The first thing is what's called an LOA, and that stands for Letter of Authorization. It's basically a statement saying these are the numbers that I want to port, this is my address, this is my company information, and yes, I authorize this porting to take place. The second thing that most carriers will require is a copy of your most recent phone bill from the losing carrier. So you're going to submit, in this case, your LOA, as well as a copy of your latest phone bill from AT&T, who is the losing carrier in our example. Now, when the new carrier receives that paperwork, they submit the port for you. So you can't have anything to do with it. The porting process is a carrier-to-carrier process. So they submit the number porting process over to AT&T, and AT&T takes a look at the paperwork that was submitted, and they choose to either accept or reject the port request that was submitted by your new carrier. Now, why would they reject this? So the couple things here. First of all, losing carriers, any SIP carrier, AT&T, Sprint, Verizon, any of the carriers that are out there, it does not behoove them to put a lot of effort into making the porting process easy for you, right? So why should they spend time and resources and employees dedicated to number porting when what they're essentially doing is helping facilitate the loss of business, right? So that's why porting is not the easiest thing to do, because carriers are hesitant to port your phone numbers away and lose that business. That's why they will pick any reason to reject a port, and they won't send it through unless it's absolutely perfect, because by law they have to port your numbers. Now there are some very rural carriers that, like a very localized small town carrier that may not have the ability to port phone numbers. So that's the first thing you're going to want to check is, can my carrier port my phone numbers away? And in 90-something% of cases they can. Certainly all of the big carriers like AT&T and Verizon and Level 3 can absolutely port your phone numbers. Some of the very small ones cannot. I've run into a couple of those over the years. Okay, so the losing carrier receives the paperwork. Why would they possibly reject it? So if they reject your paperwork, there's usually a few reasons. There's some very common reasons for why they would reject it. And so I'm going to pull up another document here, Common Porting Issues and How to Avoid. Okay, so the most common issue that I see a port request get rejected for is an address mismatch. Okay, so for instance, if you are on 123 Main Street, and you have with your losing carrier 123 Main Street with the STREET spelled out, but your new carrier has 123 Main ST period, they can reject your port request because of that. Okay, so it needs to match exactly on both sides. So when you sign up for your new carrier, make sure you look at your old carrier's phone bill first and make your address exactly the same. Same thing with the LOA. When you create your LOA paperwork to give to your new carrier to then submit the port request, the address on the LOA needs to match the billing address on your old carrier, losing carrier, exactly. Okay, the second reason that I see, and these are in no particular order, although address mismatch is probably the most common one that I see. The next one is bundled services. So oftentimes with like these Verizon Fios, AT&T Uverse type packages, you have internet and phone and possibly TV all bundled into one set of services. When you have those bundled services, they make it more difficult to just pull out the phone portion of that. They're going to say, well, no, you're in contract for this entire bundle, so you can't port your phone numbers away from us. So what you have to do is then work with the losing carrier to work through that and possibly separate out the phone portion of your bundle into its own account. And then once that's done, you can port away out of that account. Okay, the next one that I've seen is when you try to port your main account number. So oftentimes, this isn't always the case, but some carriers use your main DID, your main phone number, as the account number on your account. So if you have a phone number 818-555-1212, that is also your account number with the carrier. And since your account number is the main number on the account, they would have to close that account in order to move that number away. So it's just kind of locked. Like they can't do anything with that number. So usually what you have to do is maybe get a temporary phone number added to your account, set that as the account number, and then all of the rest of the numbers on the account are freed up to be ported away, and then once they're ported away, you can close out the old account. Kind of a pain. Like I said, they don't make it easy to port these numbers. Okay, so the fourth one here is still in contract with the losing carrier. So let's say you had phone service from AT&T and you've got 5 phone numbers and you're trying to port those 5 phone numbers away from AT&T. Well, if you're in contract, a 2 or 3 year contract, something like that, and you still have some months left on the contract, you have to maintain some service with them, right? So you can't port all of your numbers away. You, again, might have to get a temporary phone number, put it onto AT&T, and then just leave that one phone number on there for the duration of the contract. Or just stay in contract until the contract ends, and you can port after the contract ends. One thing to be careful, though, if you're doing that, is that a lot of these carriers have things written in the fine print that says at the end of your contract, unless you notify us, you're automatically renewed for another 2-year contract or 3-year contract or whatever, right? So you want to make sure that at the end of your contract expiration, you have to go month to month and not automatically resubscribe to a new contract. Okay, so let's say though that your port is accepted, right? So it hasn't been rejected and it did get accepted. Well, basically what happens then is the losing carrier, AT&T in this case, informs the new carrier of the port date, right? So they'll say, okay, these phone numbers, your port has been accepted. These phone numbers are going to port on, December 25th. Probably not that day because it's Christmas, but your phone numbers are going to port on such and such a date. And on that date, the phone numbers will port over. You don't get a time when they're going to port over. You don't get a window when they're going to port over. They just tell you that on this day, the numbers are going to switch to the new service. So what you want to do is make sure that your new service is already set up as much as possible. And then you kind of just want to be watching the new service like a hawk to make sure that the second those numbers port, they're now ringing into your phone system the way that you want them to. Okay, so I hope that explains the number porting process. Again, it can be a confusing process, it can be an arduous process, but if you follow some of these simple tips, it will be a successful process. And we go through this all the time. I see probably about 75% of port requests get authorized and accepted the first time, and then out of the remaining 25%, most of the problems have to do with the things that I listed as potential problems. So if you try to avoid those potential problems as much as possible, cross your I's and dot your T's ahead of time, then you should be in good shape for the phone number porting process. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video. My name's Chris with Crosstalk Solutions. If you did enjoy the video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, please click subscribe. Thank you so much for watching.